The starship Aurora's Hope drifted gently through the void as it approached the green and glowing planet of Zephyra. From the window of the small cabin, Ethan Hayes leaned forward, watching the world grow larger with every passing second. He was a human trader, not a rich one, not famous, but he had a heart that often pushed him into places where wealth did not matter as much as kindness. His ship was old, patched with spare parts, and its engines hummed unevenly. But it had carried him across many systems before, and he trusted it like an old friend. Zephyra was known for its wide markets where beings from dozens of different species gathered to trade. Spices, crystals, machines, and even star maps could be bought here if one had enough credits. Ethan came with simple goods from Earth, preserved foods, handcrafted tools, and a few small pieces of human art. He knew he would not earn much profit, but he hoped to make just enough to keep his ship flying. When he stepped out into the marketplace, his senses were overwhelmed. The air was warm and sweet, filled with the smell of alien fruits and roasted grains. Bright banners of alien script hung above wooden stalls and metal stands. Traders called out in many voices, their words mixing into a river of sound. Creatures tall and short, with fur, scales, or bright feathers passed by carrying baskets or dragging carts. Ethan, with his plain jacket and tired eyes, blended in with the crowd like a traveler who had seen too many roads. He was walking past a row of stalls when his attention stopped on a scene that felt different. On a raised platform of polished stone, a tall alien stood proudly, his skin a deep gray with faint purple veins glowing beneath it. His name was Kralix, and he was well known in the marketplace. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd as he held a cane made of crystal. Beside him stood two small figures chained loosely at the wrists. Ethan's breath caught when he realized what he was seeing. The two figures were young Zephyrans, sisters by the look of them. They had delicate frames, with soft silver skin that shimmered faintly in the light, and large glowing eyes that seemed too big for their small faces. One of them, slightly taller, kept her arm around the other protectively. The younger one clung to her sister, frightened and confused. The alien merchant's booming voice rose above the crowd. Two rare Zephyran girls, strong bloodline, useful. Skills and fine beauty, but they will be sold separately. Double profit, double gain. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some aliens looked interested, others only glanced before walking on. Ethan felt something twist inside him. He had seen trade in many forms across the stars, but to separate sisters so young, to treat them as goods, it struck him as cruel in a way that money could not measure. The older sister's eyes met his for a moment. She did not cry, but her gaze held a silent plea. Do not let us be torn apart. Ethan looked away quickly, guilt heavy in his chest. He was only a struggling trader. He had little money. What could he possibly do against someone like Kralix, who was powerful, wealthy, and feared in this marketplace? Yet, as he tried to continue walking, his feet would not move. He turned back, his heart pounding. He could hear his own thoughts. Clearly, if I walk away now, I will never forgive myself. He approached the platform. Kralix raised a brow, recognizing the human. Ah, a newcomer from Earth, the merchant said smoothly. Do you wish to bid? These sisters will not be cheap. Ethan's voice was steady, though inside he felt unsure. Why sell them apart? They belong together. The merchant laughed, a cruel sound that echoed. Because together they are one sale, apart they are two. Profit, human. That is the way of the market. Ethan clenched his fists. He glanced at the sisters again. The younger one's eyes filled with hope as she noticed him speaking. The older one still stood strong, but Ethan could see the way her shoulders trembled. He did not have much, but he knew one thing: he had to try. I will keep them together, he said, no matter what it takes. The crowd around him stirred with interest. A human challenging Kralix? It was unusual. Some whispered that he was foolish, others admired the courage in his voice. Kralix smiled, though his sharp teeth made the expression more like a threat. Very well, human. Let us see how deep your pockets truly are. The bidding begins. As the sound of the auctioneer's bell rang across the market square, Ethan felt his chest tighten. He thought of his small bag of credits, his ship that needed repairs, and the uncertain future he faced. He was struggling, yes. But as he looked at the two sisters holding onto each other with all their strength, he knew that some battles were worth more than credits. The marketplace of Zephyra buzzed with excitement as the auction began. Alien traders from all corners of the planet gathered around, curious about the human who dared challenge Kralix. Ethan felt the weight of his limited credits pressing down on him, but he did not hesitate. His heart had already decided that the sisters' bond was worth more than anything else. Kralix started the bidding with a low, confident offer. 100 Zyphron credits, he announced, his voice echoing across the square. Who will raise? Ethan took a deep breath. 100 credits was far beyond what he could comfortably spare, but he could not walk away. 150, he said, raising his voice so the crowd could hear. He felt the eyes of the sisters on him. Their hope gave him courage. Even as doubt gnawed at his stomach, the crowd murmured. Kralix's eyes narrowed. A human dares to outbid me? Very well. 200, he said, clearly enjoying the challenge. Ethan hesitated. 200 credits was almost all he had. But he remembered the sisters' frightened faces and their tiny hands clutching each other. He swallowed hard and said, 250. Kralix laughed, sharp and cold. 250. Such determination. But let us see how far the human will go. 300. The sisters looked at Ethan, their eyes wide. Lyra, the older sister, whispered, softly to Tina. He's trying. He wants to keep us together. Tina clutched her sister's hand tightly, nodding. Their trust in this stranger gave Ethan renewed strength. Ethan's mind raced. How could he continue without going bankrupt? He quickly calculated in his head. Every credit mattered. Every trade he had could be used as leverage. He decided to make small bargains with other traders nearby, offering favors and promising rare earth goods if they supported him. Some traders, impressed by his courage, agreed quietly, nodding and whispering encouragement. 350, Ethan said, standing taller despite the fear creeping into his chest. Kralix's grin faltered slightly. He was not used to someone countering his every move so boldly. 400, he roared, slamming his crystal cane against the platform for emphasis. Ethan felt panic rise. He only had a few trades left he could offer, and he would have to risk giving away valuable cargo from Earth. Yet, looking at the sisters, he made a quick decision. He placed another bid. 450. The crowd gasped. A human was risking everything to protect two young aliens. Murmurs of admiration spread quickly, even among species that usually looked down on humans. Some began to cheer silently for him, while others wondered how long Kralix could maintain his calm. Kralix's eyes glowed faintly with anger. 500, he barked, voice sharp as a blade. He leaned closer to the sisters. This is a cruel world, little ones. Humans think they can change it with courage. Let us see if he can truly afford you. Ethan's mind spun. If he went any higher, he might lose everything. His ship's repairs, his food stores, even the small amount of savings he had for emergencies. Gone. But the thought of the sisters being separated was unbearable. He looked at their small, trusting faces. He felt a surge of determination. 550, he said, louder this time, his voice carrying across the market. For a moment, the crowd went silent. Even some of Kralix's usual supporters looked uneasy. They had never seen a human act so fearlessly, risking everything for compassion. Kralix glared. His sharp features twisted into a snarl. 600. This human will ruin himself for nothing. Ethan's heart pounded. He had no more credits left, only the promise of trades he could offer. He swallowed hard, then spoke with unwavering determination. I will give 601, and I will offer my rare earth tools and a favor to any trader who will help me keep the sisters together. The crowd erupted in whispers and murmurs. Some traders stepped forward, nodding, agreeing to back Ethan with small trades and favors. It was risky, but together they formed a quiet alliance that Kralix could not ignore. The sisters watched, their small hands gripping each other tightly. Lyra's eyes shone with hope, and Tina's frightened expression slowly turned into a small, trusting smile. For the first time, they felt that someone cared enough to fight for them. Krelix's face darkened. He realized that no matter how cruel or greedy he was, this human would not give up. The bidding war was no longer just about money. It had become a test of courage, of willpower, and of heart. Ethan's chest heaved with exhaustion. He had spent almost everything he had, but he did not regret a sin. Glue moment. The sisters were safe for now, and in that brief pause he realized something important. Humans might struggle, humans might be small in the vast universe, but the human heart could be stronger than fear, cruelty, and even the deepest wealth. The auction was far from over, and Krelix would not yield easily. But Ethan had already shown that one human with determination, cleverness, and compassion could stand against even the most powerful of beings. And so, the struggle continued, the marketplace buzzing, and the two sisters holding on to hope that the human standing before them would not let them be torn apart. The auction on Zephyra had grown tense. Ethan's heart raced as he watched Krelix adjust his sharp gaze toward him. The cruel merchant was not used to being challenged, and the human's persistence had drawn more attention than either of them had expected. Traders whispered to one another, eyes flicking between Ethan and the sisters themselves clung tightly to each other, hoping this human could succeed. Ethan knew he could not simply outbid Krelix with credits alone. His resources were almost gone, and the merchant's wealth seemed endless. He needed a new plan, one that required brains rather than money. He looked around the crowded marketplace, noticing small details others overlooked, rules and customs, trading loopholes, and ways to appeal to the council that oversaw the market. He first approached a group of Zephyran traders who were quietly observing the auction. "I have rare tools from Earth," he said, "and I promise to provide favors or goods to those who support me in keeping the sisters together." Some hesitated, but the sincerity in his voice convinced several to nod, in agreement. He knew alliances mattered as much as wealth in a place like this. Krelix noticed the quiet movement among the crowd and frowned. "Do you think you can rally support against me, human?" he hissed. "I am the law of this market." Ethan smiled faintly. "The law is only as strong as those who follow it, Krelix, and some of your followers are not so loyal." The cruel alien growled and raised his bid. 700 credits, he shouted, slamming his cane on the platform. But now Ethan was ready. He offered not just money, but clever trades, Earth technology, knowledge of distant human markets, and promises of future deals that could benefit the supporting traders. Slowly, the balance began to shift. Ethan raised his voice. 750 plus a rare Earth comm device for anyone willing to help me. The crowd stirred. Traders leaned in, intrigued by the human's offer. In a universe where information and connections were as valuable as money, Ethan's cleverness started to matter more than the credits he had left. The sisters watched in amazement. Lyra whispered to her younger sister, "He's thinking faster than anyone here." Tina nodded, eyes wide with hope. Their small hands still clutched each other, but now they could feel the warmth of courage surrounding them. Krelix's patience was thinning. He barked, 800! You will ruin yourself for 2 small children. His voice carried across the marketplace, but Ethan did not falter. He remained calm, thinking quickly, using every advantage he had. Ethan spotted a small legal notice posted on a nearby stall, a rule stating that under certain conditions siblings could not be sold separately. It was often ignored, but it existed. He called the attention of the Market Council. "I would like to remind everyone," he said loudly, "that according to Zephyra trading law, siblings should not be separated unless both guardians agree. I believe these sisters deserve protection under this law." A hush fell over the crowd. Traders murmured to each other, and Krelix's face tightened. He had relied on fear and greed, but now human cleverness and knowledge of the rules had shifted the momentum. Ethan continued, "I do not have unlimited credits, but I can offer knowledge, tools, and future trade agreements that will benefit anyone who helps me." Let us show that fairness and courage can matter more than cruelty. Slowly, traders began to nod, lending quiet support. Krelix growled but could not counter this clever strategy. The human was not merely bidding. He was thinking, planning, and inspiring allies. The sisters' faces brightened. Lyra whispered, "He will save us, Tina. I can feel it." Tina's small smile returned, her hope rising like the sun over Zephyra's glowing fields. Ethan took a deep breath. He knew the final bid would require one last bold move. He gathered his courage and said loudly, 850 credits, and I pledge that any trader who supports this bid will receive rare knowledge and future supplies from Earth. The marketplace erupted in whispers. Even some of Krelix's strongest supporters paused, seeing that the human had more than money. He had heart, cleverness, and determination. Krelix's eyes blazed with fury. "You cannot win this," he shouted, but Ethan's calm voice cut through the tension. "Perhaps not with money alone, Krelix, but with courage, fairness, and allies, a small human can change what seems impossible." The sisters watched with wide eyes, clinging to each other. For the first time they felt safe and protected, believing that this human had a plan and that he would not give up. Ethan's chest heaved, sweat dripping from his brow. He was exhausted, his mind racing, his resources nearly spent. Yet he smiled faintly. Cleverness and courage could carry him further than fear and cruelty ever could. He had learned that even in a vast universe, a human heart could shine brightly, outshining the darkest greed. The auction was far from over, but Ethan had proven something important. Determination, intelligence, and compassion could challenge even the cruelest of aliens. And in the marketplace of Zephira, whispers of a human who would not give up began to spread, giving hope not only to the sisters but to everyone who believed that courage mattered more than wealth. The struggle was not finished, but for the first time, Ethan felt the tide was turning. The sun of Zephira hung low over the marketplace, casting long shadows across the stalls. Ethan's chest ached from the tension of the auction. He had given nearly everything he could spare, and yet the cruel Krelix still tried to outbid him at every turn. But Ethan knew he could not give up. The sisters' trust and hope rested entirely on him. Krelix raised his voice, sharp and mocking. 900 credits, no human will outwit me." His tone was harsh, meant to intimidate both the human and the crowd. But Ethan had learned something important in the hours of struggle. Cruelty could only go so far when faced with determination. Ethan thought fast. He could not match Krelix's money, but he could use strategy. He had made small allies earlier, and now it was time to act. Quietly, he gestured to the traders who had promised to support him. Each of them nodded and stepped forward, adding small trades, rare goods, or promises of future help to his bid. Each contribution may have seemed small, but together they created a force that Krelix could not ignore. Ethan raised his voice, clear and steady. 950 credits, and any trader who supports keeping these sisters together will receive rare Earth tools, supplies, and guidance for future trade across the galaxy. The crowd stirred with excitement. Whispers of admiration spread quickly. Some Zephyrans had never seen a human act with such cleverness, bravery, and heart. Krelix's eyes narrowed, his patience thinning. The market that once obeyed his greed now watched the human with respect. The sisters clung to each other, watching with wide eyes. Lyra whispered softly to Tina, "He's doing it. He's saving us." Tina nodded, trembling with hope, her small hands tightening around her sisters. For the first time that day they felt safe, as if a protective shield had surrounded them. Krelix's voice cut through the murmurs like a whip. 1,000 credits. This human will ruin himself. His attempt to intimidate now sounded desperate rather than powerful. Ethan knew the final move had to be bold. He stepped closer to the platform, heart pounding but mind clear. 1,001 credits, he shouted, and I pledge that all traders who assist me will have exclusive access to Earth goods and advice for future trades. Gasps ran through the crowd. The human had gone beyond money. He was using ingenuity, alliances, and promises of knowledge to challenge the cruel merchant. Some traders who had quietly supported Krelix now hesitated, unsure if they should continue helping someone so clearly outmatched by cleverness. Krelix's face darkened, his sharp teeth bared in frustration, and he slammed his cane against the platform. "Impossible! You cannot win with tricks and promises." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling exhaustion and hope at the same time. "Perhaps not with money alone," he said, voice steady. "But courage, cleverness, and a willingness to protect the innocent. These are more powerful than any credits." The marketplace seemed to hold its breath. Even Krelix's usual supporters stopped speaking, unsure how to respond. They had seen humans before, but they had rarely seen one act with such heart, such cleverness, and such determination. The sisters' small hands remained intertwined, but their fear was slowly being replaced by hope. Lyra's glowing eyes watched, Ethan with admiration, and Tina's trembling lips curved into a small, hopeful smile. For the first time, they felt the weight of fear lift from their shoulders. Ethan's allies stepped forward, supporting his final bid. Some added rare goods, others promised future help. The power of collaboration, trust, and courage began to outweigh the greed of the cruel merchant. Krelix's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. His confidence had been shattered, not by brute force, but by the cleverness and heart of a struggling human. The crowd, sensing the shift, began whispering that the human would win. It was a turning point, not just for the sisters, but for everyone watching. Ethan's chest heaved, sweat dripping from his forehead, but he smiled faintly. He had risked everything, relied on strategy, and inspired allies to act with fairness. The sisters' fate was now secure. He had proven that humans, even when struggling, could outthink and outmaneuver cruelty. Krelix, realizing he could no longer compete, let out a frustrated growl and stepped back. His platform no longer commanded the awe it once had. Ethan, exhausted but triumphant, moved closer to the sisters. "Are you both all right?" he asked gently. Lyra nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. Tina smiled, clutching her sister and whispering, "Thank you." Ethan knelt down to meet their gaze. "You're safe now," he said. "No one will separate you." The crowd erupted, in quiet applause, not loud but meaningful. Even aliens who had initially supported Krelix nodded with approval. The story of the human who outwitted the cruel merchant began to spread across the marketplace. For Ethan, it was more than a victory, in credits or trades. It was proof that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change the outcome of even the most difficult challenges. The sisters' trust, the small alliances he had built, and his refusal to give up had made all the difference. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood with Lyra and Tina at his side. The sisters were safe, their bond intact, and for the first time that day, a struggling human felt triumphant, not because of money gained, but because he had protected innocence, preserved family, and shown that kindness and cleverness could conquer cruelty. The struggle had reached its turning point. The battle was not just about credits or trade, it was about heart. And in that heart, the human had already won. The marketplace of Zyphera was quieter now, though the energy of the day lingered like a soft hum in the air. Traders packed up their goods, whispering to each other about the human who had stood up to Krelix. Ethan walked slowly through the stalls, his legs aching, his mind racing with exhaustion and relief. Beside him, Lyra and Tina clung to each other, their small faces bright with hope. Ethan had won. Not because of money, not because of strength, but because he had used his heart, his intelligence, and the alliances he had built. The sisters were safe, and that was all that mattered. "You both comfortable?" Ethan asked gently. The sisters nodded, eyes wide and glimmering. "We are," Lyra whispered. "Because of you, we stayed together." Tina's voice was small, but steady. "Thank you, big brother." Ethan smiled softly, crouching to be closer, to their height. "You don't have to call me that," he said, though his heart warmed at the words. But I will always protect you both, I promise. Krelix, humiliated and furious, stormed past them. His usual confidence had disappeared, replaced by a bitter frustration. He could not understand how a struggling human had outsmarted him, had turned cleverness and compassion into a winning force. The market had witnessed the power of heart over greed, and Krelix's reputation suffered that day. The marketplace council approached Ethan, nodding respectfully. "You have done what few could," one member said. "You honored the law and you honored the sisters. You have earned respect among all here." Ethan nodded humbly. "I only did what was right," he replied. "These sisters deserve to stay together. That is all." Lyra squeezed Ethan's hand, her silver eyes shining with trust. "We never thought anyone would help us," she admitted softly. "But you didn't give up." Tina's small smile widened. "We were scared, but now we are happy you saved us." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had traveled across the stars many times, faced danger, and struggled with survival. But this moment, this tiny spark of hope in two young lives, was worth more than anything else. He realized that even when struggling, even when facing seemingly impossible odds, humans had something special: courage, cleverness, and a heart willing to fight for what is right. After the auction ended, Ethan arranged a small place for the sisters near his ship. The marketplace traders, some still smiling from admiration, helped with small gifts, fresh food, blankets, and even small toys for Tina and Lyra. It was a rare gesture of kindness in a place that usually measured everything in credits and profit. As the sun set, Ethan and the sisters sat together on a small hill overlooking the glowing forests of Zephyra. Lyra rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, and Tina curled beside them. The stars above the planet shone brighter than anywhere on Earth, and for the first time that day, Ethan felt true peace. "I'll take care of you," Ethan said softly. "We'll find a safe place for you to live, and I'll make sure no one can separate you again." The sisters nodded, their small hands holding his tightly. They trusted him completely now, and Ethan understood that trust was something far more valuable than any amount of money he had given or spent. Ethan thought of the struggle he had faced, the bidding, the clever moves, and the alliances he had built. Each step had been difficult, every decision risky, but it had led to this moment. The sisters were safe, their bond unbroken, and the human who had been struggling had shown that determination, kindness, and intelligence could overcome cruelty. And the night settled. Ethan made plans for the future. He would repair his ship, gather supplies, and ensure the sisters had everything they needed. He also knew that stories of this day would spread across Zephyra and beyond. Tales of the human who refused to give up, the human who outsmarted a cruel alien, the human who protected the innocent. The sisters, now comfortable and happy, began to laugh softly, their voices mixing with the gentle night sounds. Lyra whispered, "We feel safe now, Ethan." "Thank you." Tina smiled up at him. "You're our hero." Ethan chuckled softly, brushing a strand of glowing silver hair from Lyra's face. "No," he said. "You are my heroes too. You never gave up, even when things were scary. That courage helped me fight for you." The stars sparkled above, reflecting in the sisters' wide, trusting eyes. For Ethan, the exhaustion of the day melted into a quiet joy. He had started as a struggling human with little to offer, but he had found that courage, cleverness, and a compassionate heart were worth more than all the credits in the galaxy. And so, under the glowing Zephyra sky, the human and the two sisters sat together, safe, happy, and united. A struggling human had fought against cruelty, and in doing so, he had not only kept two sisters together, but had also reminded the universe of something important. Even in the darkest times, humans can shine brighter than any star. It was a small victory, perhaps, in the vast galaxy, but to Ethan, Lyra, and Tina, it was everything.